The galactic trade station buzzed with activity as dozens of alien species conducted business in the massive crystal dome floating in deep space. Captain Sarah Chen walked through the crowded marketplace, her human appearance drawing curious stares from the various creatures around her. Some had multiple eyes, others had tentacles instead of arms, and a few resembled walking trees with glowing bark. Sarah stopped at a vendor selling star charts when she overheard a conversation between two Zephyrians, tall, blue-skinned beings with crystalline wings. The humans want to establish a colony on Kepler 442c, the first Zephyrian said, his voice like wind chimes in a storm. They submitted the request to the Galactic Council yesterday. The second Zephyrian's eyes widened, all four of them blinking in unison. Kepler 442c? That death world. Someone needs to warn them before they make a terrible mistake. Sarah stepped closer, pretending to examine a navigation device. The Zephyrians continued their discussion, unaware of her presence. The gravity is 3 times standard, the first one continued. The atmosphere is toxic to most life forms. The temperature swings from freezing to boiling within a single-day cycle. The radiation levels would kill a Centaurian in minutes, not to mention the massive predators that roam the surface. And the storms, the second added with a shudder that made his wings chime softly. The electromagnetic storms can disable starships from orbit. It's literally classified as a Class X hazard world. No intelligent species has ever survived there for more than a few days. Sarah finished her transaction with the star chart vendor, a squid-like creature with dozens of eyes on stalks. As she walked away, she heard the Zephyrians still talking about the poor, doomed humans and their suicide mission. 3 days later, Sarah sat in the council chambers of the Galactic Trade Station. The circular room was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, each sitting in specially designed seats that accommodated their unique physiology. The air was thick with translation matrices, allowing everyone to understand each other despite speaking different languages. High Chancellor Vex, a massive slug-like being with golden skin, called the session to order. "We are here to discuss the human request to colonize Kepler 442c, his voice boomed through the chamber. Are there any objections or concerns? Immediately, dozens of tentacles, appendages, and limbs shot into the air. The Chancellor pointed to Ambassador Thys of the Reptilian Collective. Your Excellence, Thys hissed, his forked tongue flicking nervously, my people have surveyed that world. It is a death trap. The surface temperature reaches 80 degrees Celsius during the day and drops to -40 at night. The atmospheric pressure is enough to crush most beings. We lost 3 exploration vessels to the electromagnetic storms alone. A chorus of agreement rippled through the chamber. Next, the Chancellor recognized Dr. Melody of the Crystalline Union. Honored Council, she said, her voice like breaking glass. Our scientific analysis shows that Kepler 442c has radiation levels that exceed safe limits by a factor of 50. The magnetic field is unstable, causing constant solar particle bombardment. Our computer models predict that any settlement would be destroyed within 1 planetary rotation. More voices joined in, each describing the horrors of the world the humans wanted to claim. Sarah listened to tale after tale of failed expeditions, lost ships, and certain death. Finally, Chancellor Vex raised a massive appendage for silence. Captain Chen, he said, turning his bulbous eyes toward her, you have heard the concerns of the Council. This world that your species wishes to colonize has been unanimously classified as uninhabitable. Every expedition that has attempted to land there has met with disaster. Perhaps your people should consider a more suitable world for your expansion. Sarah stood slowly, feeling the weight of hundreds of alien gazes upon her. She had anticipated this moment, and a small smile played at the corners of her mouth. Honored Council members, she began, her voice clear and confident. I appreciate your concerns for human safety. Truly, I do. You've painted a vivid picture of a hostile, dangerous world where no intelligent life could possibly survive. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. However, I think there might be some information that wasn't included in your assessments. Sarah activated her portable holographic display, showing an image of a blue and green world dotted with brown continents. This is Earth, she said simply. My home world, let me tell you about it. The chamber fell silent as Sarah began to describe her planet. The aliens leaned forward in their seats, their various sensory organs focused intently on the human woman who was about to change their understanding of her species forever. Sarah walked to the center of the council chamber, her boots echoing against the crystalline floor. The hologram of Earth rotated slowly above her palm as she began her presentation. Earth's gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared, she said casually. That's about 2.8 times stronger than what most of you consider standard. We've been living with that our entire existence. She gestured to the Zephyrians in the gallery. Your species evolved on a world with 0.3 standard gravity. To you, Earth would feel like being constantly pressed down by an invisible weight. Murmurs began to ripple through the chamber. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Our atmosphere is 21% oxygen, Sarah continued. I know that sounds normal to some of you, but oxygen is actually a highly reactive, corrosive gas. It literally burns through organic matter at the molecular level. We call it breathing, but it's really a controlled form of combustion happening inside our bodies every second of every day. Dr. Melody of the Crystalline Union made a sound like breaking wind chimes. That's not possible. No complex life could survive constant oxidative stress at that level. Sarah's smile widened. Oh, but it gets better. Earth's surface is 71% covered by a liquid that would be toxic to most species here. We call it water, but it's actually a universal solvent that can dissolve almost anything given enough time. We drink it, we bathe in it, we swim in it for fun. She manipulated the hologram to show Earth's oceans. These bodies of liquid cover vast areas of our planet. The pressure at the bottom of our deepest ocean trenches is over 1,000 times greater than standard atmospheric pressure. It's enough to instantly crush most spacecraft, yet we have creatures living down there. The chamber was growing quieter. Ambassador Thys of the Reptilian Collective had stopped hissing entirely, his reptilian eyes fixed on the human with something approaching disbelief. Now about those temperature variations you were worried about, Sarah said, switching the hologram to show different regions of Earth. Our planet has areas where the temperature regularly drops to minus 89 degrees Celsius. We have other regions where it reaches 70 degrees in the shade. Humans live in both environments. We have settlements in places where the air itself would freeze the blood of most species in this room. She paused to let that information sink in before continuing. But the really interesting part is our weather. We have storms with winds that reach 300 kilometers per hour. We have electrical discharges from the sky that carry enough energy to power a small city. We call them lightning strikes, and they happen about 100 times every second somewhere on our planet. We have rotating columns of air called tornadoes that can level buildings and hurl vehicles through the air. We have hurricanes that span thousands of kilometers and carry more energy than your fusion reactors. Chancellor Vex leaned forward, his massive form casting shadows across the floor. Captain Chen, surely you exaggerate. No world could be that hostile and still support intelligent life. Sarah's expression grew more serious. Your Excellence, I haven't even mentioned the geological activity. Earth's surface is broken into massive plates that constantly move and grind against each other. This creates earthquakes that can topple mountains and tsunamis that can wash away entire coastal regions. We have over 1,500 active volcanoes that regularly spew molten rock and toxic gases into the atmosphere. She changed the hologram again, showing a volcanic eruption. This is Mount Vesuvius. It completely buried 2 cities in ash and superheated gas. The people had no warning, no time to escape. Yet we rebuilt nearby and continued living in the shadow of active volcanoes. Impossible, whispered Ambassador Keeks of the Aquatic Federation, his gills fluttering with agitation. Your species would have gone extinct long ago. That's what makes humans different, Sarah said, her voice growing stronger. We don't just survive in hostile environments, we thrive in them, we adapt, we overcome. When Earth throws disasters at us, we rebuild better than before. She gestured to include everyone in the chamber. Your species evolved on stable, comfortable worlds. When you encounter danger, your instinct is to avoid it, to find safer places. That's logical, it's smart. But humans evolved differently. The hologram shifted to show images of humans in various extreme environments. Deep-sea divers, mountain climbers, Arctic researchers, astronauts. We learned to dive to crushing depths and scale impossible heights. We learned to survive in frozen wastelands and scorching deserts. We learned to predict our weather and build structures that can withstand our storms. When we couldn't breathe underwater, we invented ways to bring our air with us. When we couldn't survive in space, we built ships to carry pieces of Earth with us to the stars. Sarah deactivated the hologram and looked around the chamber. So when you tell me that Kepler 442c is too dangerous for humans because of its high gravity, toxic atmosphere, extreme temperatures, and violent storms, I have to respectfully disagree. The silence in the chamber was complete. Even the translation matrices seemed to pause. You see, Sarah said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room, you've just described a world that's only slightly more dangerous than the one I grew up on. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then, slowly, conversations began to break out across the chamber as alien species processed what they had just learned. Sarah watched as the reality of human resilience sank into minds that had never conceived of such a deadly homeworld. Ambassador Thiss was the first to speak, his voice a barely audible hiss. You said Kepler 442c was only slightly more dangerous than Earth. What did you mean by slightly? Sarah pulled up the comparative data on her holographic display. Well, the gravity is about 3 times Earth standard, but humans have already proven we can adapt to high-gravity environments. Our military trains in centrifuges that simulate up to 6 times normal gravity. We have athletes who condition their bodies under increased gravitational stress. She manipulated the display to show human astronauts. Our space programs have been preparing for high-gravity worlds for decades. We've developed exoskeletons that can assist with movement and exercises that strengthen our bodies beyond normal human limits. Dr. Melody's crystalline form vibrated with what Sarah had learned was her species' equivalent of nervous laughter. But the radiation levels are high, yes, Sarah acknowledged. About 50 times what you consider safe, but humans have been living with dangerous radiation since we discovered nuclear energy. We've had nuclear accidents that contaminated vast areas of our planet, yet people still live and work in those regions today. We've developed medicines that help our bodies repair radiation damage and technologies that can shield us from the worst exposure. She showed images of human nuclear workers and researchers. Our space travelers already deal with cosmic radiation levels that would be lethal to most species. The radiation on Kepler 442c is intense, but it's within manageable parameters for human technology. Chancellor Vex shifted his enormous bulk, causing ripples to run along his golden skin. Captain Chen, even if your species can somehow survive these conditions, what about the electromagnetic storms? Our most advanced shielding systems failed against them. Sarah's grin returned. Ah, the storms. Yes, they're impressive. Peak electromagnetic activity about 12 times stronger than anything Earth produces naturally. She paused dramatically. Of course, Earth doesn't produce them naturally because we do it artificially. The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Sarah raised her voice to continue. Humans have been experimenting with electromagnetic pulse weapons for over a century. We know how to generate them, how to shield against them, and how to use them tactically. Our military vessels are routinely tested against EMP bursts that exceed what you recorded on Kepler 442c. She showed technical specifications of human military shielding. We've been hardening our electronics against electromagnetic interference since we first started using radio communications. It's standard procedure for us. Ambassador Keeks of the Aquatic Federation spoke up, his voice trembling with what Sarah recognized as fear. The predators? Our scans showed massive carnivorous creatures roaming the surface. Some were over 30 meters long. 30 meters? Sarah looked genuinely interested. That's impressive. Earth's largest land predator in our current era is only about 5 meters, but we've had bigger ones in the past. Tyrannosaurus rex was about 13 meters long and weighed as much as an adult elephant. She created a holographic comparison showing various Earth predators alongside the estimated size of Kepler 442c's creatures. But here's the thing about humans and predators, Sarah continued. We don't run from them. We study them, understand them, and if necessary, we hunt them. Humans drove dozens of large predator species to extinction on Earth, not through technology, but through persistence and intelligence. The hologram showed primitive humans hunting massive creatures with simple tools. We hunted woolly mammoths that were 4 times our size. We drove saber-toothed cats from their territories. We eliminated cave bears that could have torn us apart with their claws. We did this with stone tools and wooden spears, working as coordinated groups. Sarah looked around the chamber, nodding the wide eyes and nervous movements of her audience. Now we have plasma weapons, kinetic barriers, and orbital support. A 30-meter predator is certainly dangerous, but it's not beyond human capability to handle. She switched the hologram to show human hunting traditions. Besides, humans don't just kill predators out of fear. We study them, learn from them, and sometimes even domesticate them. We turned wolves into dogs, wild cats into pets, and massive aurochs into cattle. If these creatures on Kepler 442c prove intelligent enough, we might even try to communicate with them. Dr. Melody spoke again, her voice now carrying a note of what sounded like awe. Your species actually seeks out danger, doesn't it? Sarah nodded. Danger teaches us things that safety never could. Every challenge we've faced on Earth has made us stronger, smarter, and more adaptable. We don't see Kepler 442c as a death world. We see it as an opportunity. She gestured toward the chamber's viewport, where stars gleamed in the cosmic darkness. You've all been trying to find worlds that match your homeworld's conditions. That makes sense for your species. But humans learned long ago that we can't always change our environment to suit us. Sometimes we have to change ourselves to suit our environment. Sarah pulled up images of human colonies on various worlds throughout known space. We have settlements on ice worlds where the average temperature never rises above freezing. We have mining operations on planets with methane atmospheres. We have research stations in the coronas of stars and on the surfaces of airless moons. Humans don't need perfect conditions. We just need a chance to adapt. The chamber had grown completely quiet again. Even the ambient sounds of the station's life support systems seemed muted. So yes, Sarah concluded, Kepler 442c is dangerous. It's hostile. It will probably kill some of us before we learn to live there properly. But that's never stopped humans before, and it won't stop us now. She looked directly at Chancellor Vex. The question isn't whether humans can survive on that world. The question is whether the Galactic Council will approve our colonization request, or whether we'll have to find another way to get there. The implications of Sarah's final statement hung heavy in the chamber. Chancellor Vex's golden skin rippled as he processed the subtle threat. The humans would attempt colonization with or without official approval. Captain Chen, the Chancellor said slowly, are you suggesting that humanity would proceed illegally if this council denies your request? Sarah's expression remained neutral. I'm suggesting that humans have never let bureaucracy stand between them and exploration. We've been expanding into hostile territory for our entire history, usually without asking permission from anyone. She activated her hologram once more, showing Earth's history of human migration. When our ancestors wanted to cross vast oceans, they built boats and sailed into the unknown, even when everyone told them they would fall off the edge of the world. When they wanted to reach the highest mountains, they climbed them despite the deadly altitude and crushing cold. When they wanted to explore the deepest caves, they descended into absolute darkness where one wrong step meant certain death. The images showed human explorers throughout history: ocean voyagers, mountain climbers, deep-sea divers, astronauts. We didn't ask the ocean for permission to cross it. We didn't negotiate with the mountains for the right to climb them. We didn't file requests with the vacuum of space before we launched our first rockets. Sarah's voice carried a quiet intensity that made even the largest council members lean forward to listen. Humans explore because that's what we do. It's coded into our DNA. We see a horizon and we need to know what's beyond it. We see a challenge and we need to overcome it. We see an impossible world like Kepler 442c and we see home. Ambassador Thys raised a scaled hand. But Captain, surely you understand our concern. If your species establishes colonies on classified death worlds, other species might attempt the same. The death toll could be catastrophic. Sarah turned to face the reptilian ambassador. With respect, Ambassador Thys, that's exactly my point. Other species shouldn't attempt to colonize worlds like Kepler 442c because you're not adapted for that kind of survival. But humans are. She gestured toward the assembled aliens. Each of your species evolved on worlds with specific conditions. The Zephyrians need low gravity and crystalline atmospheric matrices. The Aquatic Federation requires high humidity and pressure-stable environments. The crystalline union thrives in high radiation, mineral-rich terrains, but can't survive in organic-rich biospheres. The hologram shifted to show the homeworlds of various species. These aren't weaknesses, they're specializations. You've each developed incredible abilities that allow you to thrive in conditions that would kill humans instantly. Dr. Melody's people can process raw silicon into complex technologies using their own bodies. Ambassador Keeks's species can survive in crushing ocean depths that would implode our strongest submarines. Sarah looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many representatives as possible. But humans are generalists. We don't excel in any one environment the way your species do in your native habitats. Instead, we've learned to survive in almost any environment. We're the cosmic equivalent of Earth's cockroaches, incredibly hard to kill and able to live almost anywhere. A sound like grinding metal came from the section where the mechanical collective sat. Sarah had learned this was their equivalent of laughter. Your comparison is more accurate than you may realize, spoke Unit 317, the collective's representative. Our analysis of human expansion patterns shows remarkable similarity to invasive generalist species. High adaptability, rapid reproduction, and aggressive territorial expansion. Sarah nodded. Exactly. And that's why Kepler 442c is perfect for us. It's too dangerous for specialized species, but it's exactly the kind of challenge that brings out the best in human ingenuity. Chancellor Vex raised his massive form higher. Captain Chen, even assuming your species could survive on this world, what would be the benefit to the galactic community? Kepler 442c has no rare minerals, no unique energy sources, no strategic value we can identify. That's where you're wrong, Sarah said, her eyes lighting up with excitement. Kepler 442c has something far more valuable than minerals or energy. It has challenges that will push human innovation to new levels. She brought up technical specifications and projections. To survive on that world, we'll need to develop new gravity adaptation technologies, advanced radiation shielding, improved electromagnetic protection, and revolutionary survival equipment. These innovations won't just help humans on Kepler 442c. They'll be applicable to dozens of other extreme environments throughout the galaxy. The chamber stirred as council members began to see the implications. Every problem we solve on Kepler 442c becomes a solution we can share with other species facing similar challenges. The radiation shielding we develop could protect your mining operations in high radiation systems. The gravity adaptation technology could allow your species to work in high-G environments that are currently inaccessible. The electromagnetic shielding could protect your ships during solar storms. Dr. Melody's crystalline form began to glow with what Sarah knew indicated intense interest. You would share these technologies. Of course, Sarah replied. Human survival innovations have always been shared. We gave medical technologies to species that helped us adapt to their worlds. We shared our metallurgy with civilizations that taught us advanced physics. We've never hoarded survival knowledge because we know that today's allies might become tomorrow's rescuers. She showed examples of human technological exchanges with various alien species. Besides, Sarah added with a grin, humans work better when we have trading partners. Isolated colonies tend to stagnate. Connected colonies push the boundaries of what's possible. Ambassador Keeks spoke up, his gills fluttering with nervous energy. But what if you fail? What if Kepler 442c proves too hostile even for humans? Sarah's grin widened. Then we'll die trying, and the next group of humans will learn from our mistakes and try again. That's also what humans do. We fail forward. She showed historical examples of failed human expeditions that led to later successes. Every human disaster teaches us something valuable. Every failure shows us what doesn't work, bringing us closer to what does. Scott's failed Antarctic expedition taught us what Amundsen needed to succeed. The early space program disasters taught us how to reach the stars safely. Sarah looked directly at Chancellor Vex. So I'll ask again, Your Excellence, will the Galactic Council approve humanity's request to colonize Kepler 442c, or do we need to find our own way there? The chamber fell silent as the weight of the decision settled over the assembled representatives. Chancellor Vex's massive form pulsed with deep, rhythmic colors that Sarah had learned indicated intense deliberation among his species. Around the chamber, representatives whispered among themselves in dozens of different languages, creating a symphony of alien communication that the translation matrices struggled to keep up with. "Council recess for deliberation," the Chancellor announced. "Captain Chen, please remain available for additional questions." As the various species filed out to their consultation chambers, Sarah found herself approached by several individual representatives who had stayed behind. Dr. Melody glided over first, her crystalline structure chiming softly as she moved. "Captain, I must admit your presentation has challenged many of our assumptions about viable worlds. However, I'm curious about something you mentioned. You said humans have been preparing for high-gravity environments for decades." Sarah nodded. "Our military and space programs have extensive high-gravity training protocols. We've also been developing exoskeleton technology to assist human movement in challenging gravitational fields. Some of our asteroid miners work in environments with variable gravity that changes throughout their work shifts." "Fascinating," Dr. Melody said. "My people have computational models for crystalline growth in variable gravity fields. Perhaps there could be mutual benefit in data sharing." Ambassador Thiss approached next, his reptilian features showing an expression Sarah had learned to recognize as curiosity. "Your species' history of exploration is indeed impressive, but I noticed you didn't mention failure rates. Surely not every human expedition succeeds." "Of course not," Sarah replied honestly. "Early ocean exploration had casualty rates over 50%. Our first attempts at mountain climbing killed more people than succeeded. Early space missions had similar mortality statistics." Thiss's scales rippled, and yet humans continued. "We learned from each failure. We improved our equipment, refined our techniques, and tried again. The mortality rates dropped as our experience increased. Now human space travel is safer than most forms of ground transportation on Earth." Unit 317 of the Mechanical Collective rolled over on its articulated treads. "Captain Chen, our analysis indicates that human technological advancement accelerates during periods of extreme challenge. Is this correlation intentional?" Sarah smiled. "Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When we're comfortable, we tend to improve existing technologies incrementally. When we're dying, we invent revolutionary solutions very quickly." "Intriguing," Unit 317 replied. "Our collective finds this approach inefficient but remarkably effective." The recess stretched for over 3 hours. Sarah spent the time answering questions from curious council members and sharing additional data about human adaptability. She noticed that many species were downloading her presentation materials and requesting detailed information about human survival technologies. When the council reconvened, the atmosphere in the chamber felt different. The earlier hostility had been replaced by something more complex, a mixture of concern, fascination, and what Sarah could only describe as reluctant admiration. Chancellor Vex called for order and addressed the chamber. "The Galactic Council has deliberated extensively on humanity's request to colonize Kepler 442c. We have reached a decision that requires explanation." Sarah straightened in her seat, nodding the tension that rippled through the assembled representatives. "First," the Chancellor continued, "we acknowledge that Captain Chen has presented compelling evidence of human adaptability to extreme environments. The Council agrees that humanity possesses unique characteristics that may indeed allow survival on classified death worlds." Murmurs of agreement echoed through the chamber. "However," Vex's voice grew more serious, "the Council maintains grave concerns about establishing precedent for colonization of worlds classified as unsuitable for intelligent life." Sarah felt her heart sink, but the Chancellor wasn't finished. "Therefore, the Galactic Council proposes a compromise solution. Humanity will be granted conditional approval for a research colony on Kepler 442c under the following terms." Sarah leaned forward intently. "First, the initial colony will be limited to 500 volunteers, all of whom must be informed of the statistical mortality projections. Second, the colony must maintain constant communication with galactic monitoring stations and provide regular reports on survival innovations and adaptation techniques. Third, any technologies developed for survival on Kepler 442c must be shared with the galactic scientific community within 6 standard months of implementation. The Chancellor's massive eyes focused on Sarah. Fourth, and most importantly, this approval is specifically for humanity only. Other species are still prohibited from attempting colonization of Class X hazard worlds unless they can demonstrate similar evolutionary adaptations. Sarah felt excitement building in her chest, but Vex continued with his final condition. Fifth, if the colony succeeds beyond initial survival and establishes a stable, growing settlement, humanity will be granted exclusive rights to colonize similar extreme environment worlds throughout the galaxy. In effect, humans would become the galactic specialists in death world colonization. The chamber erupted in discussion, but Chancellor Vex raised a massive appendage for silence. Captain Chen, does humanity accept these terms? Sarah stood slowly, a broad smile spreading across her face. Your Excellence, I'll need to transmit these terms to Earth for official approval, but I can tell you with confidence that humans will be fighting each other for the chance to volunteer for this mission. She paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled alien species. You've just offered humanity exactly what we've been looking for our entire history, a challenge that will push us to our limits and beyond. We don't just accept these terms, we're grateful for the opportunity. Unit 317 spoke up from the Mechanical Collective section. Captain Chen, our projections still indicate a 23% probability of total colony failure within the first year. Sarah's grin widened. Unit 317, those are better odds than humans had when we first left Earth's atmosphere, and we still did it. Dr. Melody's crystalline form chimed with what Sarah now recognized as excitement. When will the first colonists depart for Kepler 442c? If I know humans, Sarah replied, probably before the paperwork is finished being filed. We have volunteer explorer teams that stay ready for immediate deployment to anywhere the universe wants to challenge us. Ambassador Thys hissed softly. Your species really does seek out danger, doesn't it? Sarah looked out through the chamber's massive viewport at the stars beyond. Ambassador, we don't seek out danger. We seek out opportunities to prove that there's no challenge in the universe that human stubbornness can't eventually overcome. She turned back to address the full council. Thank you for this opportunity. In 5 years, when we're sending you vacation brochures for scenic Kepler 442c, remember that you gave us the chance to turn another death world into a place humans call home. As the council session concluded and representatives began filing out, Sarah heard dozens of conversations in alien languages. The translation matrices picked up fragments. Remarkable species, evolutionary impossibility, insane adaptability, and most frequently, terrifying determination. Sarah smiled as she gathered her materials. The aliens had warned her that Kepler 442c was a deadly world, unsuitable for any intelligent life. She couldn't wait to prove them wrong again.